What makes you the most nervous about the future?
I don't know. Probably.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Ryan Serhant, the greatest real estate broker and CEO in the history of the known universe. Here's a question I've been getting a lot over the last 2 months. Can millennials even afford to buy a home right now? Interest rates have been going up like crazy, as we've seen.
The Fed's interest rate hike of 0.75%
decision to raise interest rates.
This rise in interest rates would slow down the housing market, but
We've had low interest rates for the last 14 years. The cost of borrowing money has been almost free. I mean, it's not been free, but almost free. And compared to where rates are now, relatively free. Now, let's take New York City, for example, and talk about affordability. The average rent in New York City is now $4,000 a month. That has nothing to do with interest rates. It has everything to do with inflation, which is super real, and supply and demand. When everyone came back from COVID, everyone was so panicked, they didn't know about the future, so they didn't buy, they just rented everything. So low supply, huge demand, brought up pricing. In order to qualify for an apartment in New York City, in 90% of the buildings in New York City, the standard is you have to show proof that you make 40 times the monthly rent. So if you want to be an average person and come to New York City and rent an average apartment of $4,000 a month, you need to show that you make $160,000 a year. And that $160,000 a year gets you an apartment that looks like this.
Reality of NYC apartment hunting and the absurd prices.
I just have to show you that this is now what $4,000 a month gets you. And it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's kind of infuriating and super frustrating because, especially in major cities. And so the people that actually make the city and bring the energy here, the artists, the creators, the workers, the blue collars, they, as of today, can no longer afford to even live on the island of Manhattan. Now, luckily, New York City is made up of 5 boroughs, so there's a lot of different places that people can go. There's a lot of different places that you can live. And that $4,000 a month, you can split that up. My first apartment, when I first moved to New York City, was $3,600 a month, and it was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was apartment 3A at 354 East 66th Street. You can go there. I think there's a shrine for me now. We got broken into 3 times. I lost my laptop, all my college stuff. It was a fucking shit show. Anyway, it was a 1-bedroom, and we converted it into a 3-bedroom because we wanted to lower rent and live in a good location. And living on 66th Street in the Upper East Side is a pretty awesome location. There's great restaurants right there. I went on my first dates over there. Old Ryan. I lived in what was half the living room. Dan Caffarelli lived in what was half the kitchen. And John Reese, who had a real job, he had the bedroom. His life was great. And we had 1 bathroom, and it was dirty as shit. What's super frustrating about all this is that in a recent study, they found that 3/4 of American adults said that home ownership, in their mind, is still a huge part of the American dream. And it's something that they want to achieve in their lifetime. 1, so that they can stop paying rent, but 2, so that they can start building a retirement account. Most people don't have retirement funds. They don't have 401ks. They don't have Roth IRAs. They're not even invested into the stock market or anything else. Most people who own a home, that is their nest egg. And if you take away that affordability to even be able to buy that savings account, then what are Americans going to do, especially the younger generation? Now let's think back to the last financial crisis. Okay, we did another video about this. Make sure you go check it out. The last financial crisis was caused by 2 main things. 1, over speculation in the housing market. People that had like no jobs buying 3 houses at a time because they could do stated income loans or 90% financing. Insane. That doesn't happen anymore. And 2, predatory lending. Banks, anyone, people would borrow money from anybody. They could get these ridiculous loans. That also doesn't happen anymore. So what happened in 2008, it's not gonna happen now. But what could happen now are things like what we're seeing in Texas. 1/3 of all single family homes were bought by Wall Street, by big banks. That is causing an inventory shortage. That is flooding the market with rental properties. And the minute BlackRock decides, we no longer want to be in the housing market business in Texas, they're going to hit a button, and all of a sudden, 1/3 of the single family homes sold an entire year is going to hit the market and is going to flood the marketplace, which is going to put downward pressure on all homes in that market. So you could hear that and you could say, well, that's fucked up. You could also hear that and you could say, oh, well, that could be an amazing buying opportunity. I'm just going to wait for that to happen. There's two sides to every coin, right? There's multiple different ways to tell the same exact story. But Wall Street never really learned. They look at housing as an amazing place to put money because there was no other safe place in their mind to put cash. So they put it into housing, which made things really difficult for you, to be honest. Because how could you ever compete with BlackRock buying a house? How could you ever compete with that investment bank and that hedge fund and that private equity firm? Because they're coming in and they're buying 50 houses a day. To be honest, this is the United States. If a seller is going to get an amazing cash offer from a bank that can close in 24 hours, I'm taking that deal over yours. This is what it is. Now, late last year, I was in Las Vegas and I met up with my buddy, Stephan. And I sat down in his recording studio and we had some bankroll coffee and we talked about the same exact topic. You know what? Let's actually roll that clip. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Serhant, and you are watching the Iced Coffee podcast, which has so far made $117,116.
Basically, enough. Yeah,
is that good?
That's enough. It's almost like you've been on TV before.
I'm going to hijack your podcast table here, but you are like the go-to for millennial finance now, right? For the digital generation, for people to learn about money, to learn about investment, to learn about financial news. Yeah. People go to you.
Can't believe it myself, but
what do you think right now about kind of the general economy and the landscape of how hot real estate is? Because people ask me, and obviously I love real estate, but now that you've kind of pushed yourself out of the broker mode, right? And you create content giving people advice and information and what we talked about in your podcast, like the transfer of that information. Do you think millennials are going to be buying up real estate like they are today over the next 10 years?
it's really tough because originally I thought the videos that I made like 4 years ago would be timeless. And I thought like real estate investing doesn't change. You find an undervalued property, you fix it up, you have instant equity and you move in, you get house hack. I thought like that video is going to be good for 20 years. Unfortunately, that strategy doesn't work anymore. It's not like you could just say, well, you're going to find a property 15% below market value and buy it because it doesn't exist. Now it's, do you pay 5% over asking or 20% over asking? There's not enough meat on the bone at this point to say you're going to find something undervalued, fix it up. Sometimes your best case scenario at this point is that you're going to pay a little bit over asking, you're going to get yourself in the deal, you're going to fix it up, and you might be break even. But you know what? At least you got to place it what it's worth.
If you're 17 right now watching this video, 2021, Jack's age, right? Your guy Jack.
Jack just bought a house.
Did he?
Yeah, he just closed 2 weeks ago.
Wow, good job, Jack.
Yeah.
Do you think home ownership is still the American dream?
It's tough to say. I think more millennials now value having that flexibility and love not owning things. I think we've gone from having the American dream being like, yeah, you have that house, you have a car, you have all of these assets and these things. And now it almost seems like financial minimalism is what's being valued of like, now it's cool. Like we were talking about one of Jack's friends who has everything in a backpack. Yeah. That's it. He owns nothing. No car, no house, just assets like stocks and stuff. But it's just a backpack. And I'm looking at that thinking like in the back of my mind,
Genius.
How cool that is.
Yeah.
Like imagine just, you could pick up anywhere. You moving is just putting your laptop in a backpack with a few clothes and that's it. So I think for some people, yes, home ownership I think is incredibly important. It's a great way to build wealth. It's a great way to automatically save money every month by paying down the mortgage. And there is a sense of peace of mind knowing that like you own a place, that is yours. No landlord could take that away from you. Your cost is fixed for the next 30 years, and then you're going to own it outright and not have to pay anything. Younger people right now, I think they value flexibility. And I think maybe it's the point where they start setting down roots and building a family. Then maybe home ownership makes more sense as the American dream.
Schools,
But I think early on, I think having mobility is the American dream. And not to say that home ownership is bad for building wealth, but I think mobility early on in your career is really important because you have the potential to take any opportunity that comes your way. The one thing that I really like about real estate, and the one reason why I do think it might be worth buying, even if you're not getting the best deal, is because you're able to lock in such a low rate. So in that sense, I do think that real estate is the only place that allows you that opportunity.
What makes you the most nervous about the future?
The long-term effects of printing so much money. I would say that's the one variable that I have no idea what's going to happen. If it's truly going to be inflationary, if we're going to see deflation because just people aren't spending money as they used to, or maybe it's just going to be the new normal. And maybe at some point we go down to 0% rates, or we go into slightly negative territory because we want to encourage people to spend money. The other thing I think too that they could do to boost up the economy is raise taxes. If my tax rate was like 70, 80%, I'd find any way possible to spend that money because I get more value reinvesting it anywhere else in the business than I would paying tax on it.
And we're all part of like this meme economy now where what we're feeling is known in a split second by people in India and China.
Yeah.
Right? Never before has ever happened.
I mean, long term, I think it's going to be okay. Like when you look through
Long term,
everything,
yeah, we'll all be good.
yeah, long term, everything's fine. As the house burns down, everything's fine.
You're the man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you
you.
for meeting me for a couple
Yeah.
minutes while I'm in Vegas.
You're welcome.
We've been doing property tours, and this is a nice little
welcome.
place to sit down.
But I have one request.
yes.
You told me 4 years ago you'd add me on Instagram.
Did I not?
You never added me on Instagram.
Oh
so,
my God.
So
I don't control.
So yeah, so
Who am
I had followed you. You never followed me back. So
Really?
then, yeah. So
I
then
follow you on Instagram.
no. So then I unfollowed you.
Look, Graham Stephan.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
I don't understand, though,
Yeah,
because I
no.
see your posts. Yeah.
No.
I definitely saw this one with the 2.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Oh, I already just
All right,
followed.
there you go.
That was not a conscious
now-
effort. That is
Now,
so
there we go.
funny.
Now you're following 999. So
Yeah.
that's the cap now.
Now, if you Google millennial home buying right now, or should I buy a home, or anything like that, you're going to see negative article after negative article after negative article. Okay, and that happens for 2 reasons. One, negativity is great clickbait. No one cares about happy things. No one clicks it. You're not getting the ad revenue. When people are stressed out, when they're nervous, they Google things and they click on negative ads. Boom, ad revenue. Boom, clickbait. Sure. Is there data that points right now to the fact that this might be a really tough time for millennials to age into the home buying market? Possibly, but hindsight's always 2020. You never know. And you can't time the markets that way. But as somebody who's thinking about buying a home for the long term, don't focus on timing it. Focus on saving for your down payment. Focus on paying attention to the lowest monthly payment you can get. Focus on something you're not gonna have to move from in 5 to 10 years, something that you can grow into. Sure, rates are higher now than they have been for the last 14 years, but I honestly think rates are now lower than what they're going to be potentially for the next 10 years. There's also co-buying, okay? Co-buying, co-living. Don't be stressed out so much about purchasing something on your own. You can purchase with your parents, you can purchase with friends. I think that topic is gonna come up a lot in the next couple years as people become more and more comfortable with social ownership. So, is this a really tough time to buy a house? Potentially. Are there houses you can buy? Absolutely. Are banks willing to give you a loan if you can show that you have income and you have some cash reserves? Yes. You know how hard it was to get a loan from 2008 to 2012? No bank in 2008 to 2012 wanted to give anyone a loan, even for me personally. When I tried to do my first mortgage, you know how hard it was? The amount of regulation that had just been put in place, it was so much harder to buy a house then than it was today. But there are some macro forces that are coming into play right now that do make home ownership a little bit more difficult than it has been in the past. Also keep in mind though, the fact that you're even watching this video means that home ownership for you as a millennial, Gen Z, is on the top of your mind. That hasn't always been the case. Everybody is very, very focused on buying houses right now. I think by the end of this year, we'll find a new normal. We won't find a massive correction in the housing market. We're not gonna see prices drop 20 to 40%. We're not gonna see a huge recession. So those are my thoughts on what's happening right now. If you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Zer, if you're in the industry, let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you're trying to buy a house right now, tell me in the comments what struggles you're having right now. Maybe there's something I don't know and I would love to hear about it and maybe we can help you. So let us know in the comments. If you like this video and you want to see more of kind of my unfiltered raw thoughts on the housing market and on anything, and as always, please like, subscribe, send to your friends. You know I love you. Thank you so much for watching.